Now, today we are going to have a look at Mapwork. Now, this is the second question paper. Now, in the past, we had huge problems in the second question paper. The marks, if you compare the second question paper with the first question paper, then it seems to me that there's lots of work that must be done just to improve our marks. And this afternoon, it will be an opportunity for you to listen in and to tune in with us here and try to get the maximum amount of marks in your Mapwork question paper. One thing about Mapwork, you must remember that if you work with Mapwork, you must also know your first question paper, the content. You must know that, because that is where most of the marks are actually lost. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at our Mapwork broadcast this afternoon. The first thing, the second question paper, the first thing that I want to have a look at is, what does the second question paper look like? And firstly, you must know that the first question, multiple short questions, please people, you must know what the question paper looks like. The second question will deal with calculation and your Mapwork skills or your techniques. The question 3, application and interpretation of your content of the syllabus that will be applied on the maps. And fourthly, GIS. So these will be the 4 questions that will appear in the, I don't even want to talk about the end of the year, within the next few months actually, in your examination. Okay, now I've decided to start off with a per question analysis of last year's question paper. Now, Matrix, this is very, very important that you have a look at this. When we do this analysis, we have a look at in what questions did last year's Matrix do okay, and where were all the other problem areas in the question paper. Now let's have a look at this. Here we've got question 1. These are all percentages that we've got. Now the question 1, remember question 1, the total there, 15 marks, and 43% was the average of the question 1. Question 2, calculation and techniques, 35%. And question 3, the application, 33%. And GIS, 28%. Now, you had, I think, 2 GIS lessons during the course of the year. So there won't be opportunity for us to deal with GIS today. It seems that you've done it in the second quarter. So please go back and listen again. We'll have a look at the telematic broadcast that we had regarding GIS. Okay, so if we have a look here, a pattern emerges. Firstly, you will see that in question 1, the multiple choice, of course, these questions, as you also expect, they do very well in this question. The calculations, 35%. Here, remember, Matrix, this is practice makes perfect. You will have to practice every calculation. We're getting back to that later on. And then if you have a look at the application, as we said, 25 marks. Now, this is what I want to show you. Remember that the application, 25 out of 75, 1/4 of your marks has to do with application of your content on the map. So you see how very, very important it is that you must know your content. But also remember that your content can also be tested here in the multiple choice short questions. So I would like to repeat what I've just said. Remember, you must know your content also for your second question paper. Now, you have drawn a line. That is your 30%. That's your pass line. Now, if you have a look at that line, then you'll see that GIS, 28, that's 2% below even a pass mark of an average pass mark. So you will have to deal with your GIS and really see if you can understand and get to know all the concepts there. But if we have a look at what we're going to discuss this afternoon, then you will see that only 3% above the pass would be 33% is the application, and of course the calculations only 5, the multiple choice. Okay, now that is where we want you to be. That is where we want people to be, at 40%. Now, at the moment, you see we've only got to 40% in question 1, but the other 3 sections, they are far below. Now, we hope that after today, we at least will be able to get up to 40% in question 2, as well as in question 3. So this is very, very, very important. Now, if we have a look at the issues of the 2014 and the 2015 question paper, I'm just putting on all of them. Remember, we looked at the 2014 and the 2015 question paper. And this is very, very important, because remember that we took 2 years of issues, and the following came up. Firstly, candidates had a poor knowledge of conventional signs. Now, that is the key on the map. Now, I'm coming back to this again. Remember that when it comes to the key matrix, you will have to do. There's nothing that your teacher can do about this. You will have to study. You will have to know what every sign represents in reality. Many candidates did not know how to use the map index. Now, we are going to look at a few of the questions of last year and see if we can show you how to do these things. Candidates confused irregular street pattern with a grid iron street pattern. Candidates struggled to identify human-made features and natural features on the orthophoto map as well as the topographic map. Now, matrix, this is actually very easy. Remember, we have got 2 types of features: human-made features and man-made features. We'll come back to that also as well. Candidates could not identify the correct true bearing on a map while using a protractor. Now, please, matrix, most of these skills that we had problems with are things that we actually do in grade 9 already. Candidates had little knowledge of the concepts such as stream order. We'll get back to that as well. Candidates did not use the information on the topographic map to assist them, and candidates had to apply the climatological knowledge aspect to answer. They couldn't apply the climate especially. Now, matrix, these are the issues that we dealt with in 2004 and 2015. And these issues are ongoing. Every year, we actually get the same ones out. Now, we don't want that at the end of this year anymore. And we hope that we will be able to show you how to conquer these issues that we have experienced. Okay, now, the next thing that I want you to show you is the instructions and the information. Now, I want to refer you here to the question paper that I've got here in front of me. Now, the question paper here, if you have a look at this, you know, the problem that I've got is that when I ask matrix, do you ever read this page? Then you get that some matrix don't even know that we've got an English and Afrikaans translations in the question paper. And this is so important, matrix. You don't even need to read it in the exams. You can. It's standard. You should read it now already, okay? And see what's important here. The most important thing that 3 things that I would like to highlight here is number 7. Indicate the unit of measurement in the final answer of calculations. They will, for instance, ask you what is the distance from A to B. Then we will get 25, for instance. We must get 25 kilometers. So please, people, the units are very, very important. I'll come back to units again. Now, the following one that I want to refer you to is the translations, English and Afrikaans, that we've got here. Now, sometimes you will find that on your map you've got Afrikaans words. Now, these Afrikaans words are translated here. Here we've got, for instance, a vliegveld that was on the map, and it's translated with aerodrome. Now, matrix, remember that if the examiner puts these things in here as translated words, then it means that these are possible answers. These words form part of a possible answer in the question paper. So please don't ignore this. Sometimes you don't know an answer. Go here to your translations. Perhaps that will give you a clue where you could be, and you could actually get a mark or 2 that you actually didn't know, but the translation helped you to get to that answer. Okay, the next thing that I want to show you is here on page 3. Usually for the past few years, they supplied you with general information on, for instance, last year, the map of Queenstown was asked. And what happens now is that if you've got this, many people don't read this information in the exam question paper. Now, general information on Queenstown. Now, this is very important. The first thing that they do is they'll give you a map and they'll show you where Queenstown is located. And usually they ask a question like, in what province is it? Here's your answer. Here's a paragraph, a very short paragraph that they, in the past 2-3 years, that they give you to describe the area. And if you read this, then you'll see that in this section, in this paragraph, 1 or 2 marks, if not more, you can pick up, or you can use that to get to an answer on the map. So please, people, read this. I know that most of you just dive into the question paper and you just have a look at this for the page where the questions start, and you start answering these questions immediately. So please pay attention to page 2 and 3. These pages supply you with vital information that could actually, it's perhaps 6 or 8 marks. That's out of 75 marks that you can get if you study these two pages. So please, people, page 2 and 3. Please read those pages. Take note what's written there. Save it in your brain. And when you get a question that you need this, go back, refer to what you've got here on page 2 and 3. Okay, now, when we did the issues, we had a look at map symbols, and you saw that in my introduction, I showed you that map symbols, there's a problem with map symbols or the keys, that the key, that candidates didn't know that. Now, as I've mentioned, these issues that I've mentioned here, these are ongoing, and it's been repeated every year. Now, if you don't know your map symbols matrix, then you are just plain and simple lazy. You didn't study it, because remember, you do map symbols for the first time in grade 9. So get to know those symbols. Now, okay, most of you will tell me, listen here, the symbols appear on the map. Fine, the symbols do appear on the map. But you know what's the problem that you've got? If they ask a question, and you must first go back and say, oh, this is the symbol, this is whatever represents, then you've got a problem. You're losing about 30 seconds by only going to have a look at that. But now the problem is that for most of the question, especially in question 3, you need 2, 3, 4 symbols to answer one question. I would like to repeat that, and you must understand this. In some cases, many cases, in question 3, you are going to need about 3, 4, 5 symbols that you must know to answer a question. And if you must go and look every time what that symbol means, you're not only wasting time, but you won't be able to see the relationship between those symbols. Because you must understand the relationships and see it immediately on the map to really understand and answer those questions successfully. Okay, so let's have a look at the map symbols. Now, what's very important of your map symbols, this came up in the exams reports that we had. Firstly, candidates had a poor knowledge of conventional signs. Now, conventional signs, your map symbols, your key, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. Okay, now here's something. Many candidates didn't know how to use the map index. We're coming back to that again. Candidates struggle to identify human-made features on the topographic and orthophoto map. Candidates struggle to identify natural features on the topographic and the orthophoto map. Now, if you must just look at the slide that we've got here. Here we've got the map symbols here. You should know. Here we've got a row of trees, so that would be a natural feature. You should know that here we've got a river. That is a natural feature. Okay. You should know that if we've got a national road or a cemetery or bridge, then you should know that this is a human-made feature. Now, please, matrix, listen carefully to what I'm saying now. Usually, if they ask you the following questions, identify 2 man-made structures, whatever the rest of the question may be. Now you write down the physical structures. You write down 4, 5, 6 structures, and then here or there would be a man-made structure in between. Remember, the way they are going to mark it from now on is that if you have mentioned the first 2, they remember the question was 2 marks, they will look at the first 2 and the rest they are going to ignore, because otherwise it means that you are guessing. Okay? So please, people, see that you know the difference between man-made, anything that the humans made, that's easy, and of course, your natural ones, your mountains, your rivers, and all that type of stuff. Okay, so see that you know. Remember your map symbols. That's the basis of your map interpretation. If you don't know this, you won't be able to be successful in your map work or your second question paper. Okay. Now, I just want to have a look at the map skills that you need for your exams. Sorry. These are the map skills that you need. Firstly, direction and bearing. Now, if you listen to my introduction, you would have seen that bearing was a problem. Direction is a problem. You know, when they write the final exam, or what exam ever, you will always see that in grade 12, we still get people who don't know where's north, east, south, and west. Please, people, make sure. Know the bearings that accompany the different directions. Very important. Then your contours, right? How is height represented? By contours, trig stations, spot heights, benchmark. Very popular question. They will say, name 2 ways in which height is represented in block A3. There's your answer. But please, people, only those that are found in the block. Don't write down any one of those that you don't see in the block. Okay. Then your map reference or map index. This caused huge problems at the end of the year. We'll come back to this during the course of our discussion again. We've got a problem here. Okay. Then the coordinates. Very important. You must know your for instance here, 33 degrees, 20 minutes, 18 seconds south. You must know how your latitude and your longitude work. You must be able to know, and even they can ask you the coordinates of any feature on the map as well. Then your cross-section. Please see that you are in a position to draw your cross-section. In this time that we've got here available, it's very difficult to explain how cross-sections are done. You will have to do it and practice it. Go back to your teacher and ask if it's correct. Very important. Practice makes perfect when it comes to cross-sections. Intervisibility. Can you see one, for instance, they give you 2 points, point A and B. Is the point visible from another one? And then direction of river flow. You know, we couldn't believe that so many matrics couldn't determine in which way a river flowed in the end of last year's exam. Please, people, remember these things. You're doing grade 9 already, right? Look at the reasons why rivers flow in a certain direction. For instance, flowing towards the sea, flowing from high to low, right? The way in which your tributaries join, okay? So have a look at that. Very, very important, okay? That you must be able to determine the direction, right? As well as give 1 or 2 reasons why you have chosen the direction. So these are the important map skills. So let's just have a look at this again. You must know direction, height, map reference, coordinates, cross-section, intervisibility, and the direction of river flow. Very important for your map skills. Now, as I've mentioned, we had problems with this one. Have a look at this question that we had in last year's question paper. Which letter, A, B, C, or D in the grid below represents the map or area southwest of 3126 DD Queenstown? Now, matrics, you've got to understand that code there. You've got to understand that reference. Now let's have a look at that. 3126 DD. Now, you must know which one of these 4 blocks here. Where do we find that map? Where is it located? Now, this question really required a little bit of higher order thinking, because you had to work out where is this map located. So let's have a look here at the reference again. 3126 DD Queenstown. All right. So 3131, that would be the latitude. 26 would be the longitude, and DD would be the block. Now, let's see, where is it located? Right. The first thing, here we've got 31 degrees south, that way. So in other words, that line, it must be somewhere down here. 26, where's that? This is this one, yes. In other words, immediately, 31, it can't be this half, this bottom low half of these blocks. So you can cancel out that. It can't be this one because it must be in the 26. Now, let's see what happens now. If that's that, then this means it's located in those blocks there. Now, you must know that that would be A, that would be BC, that would be A, B, C, D, and eventually DD would be located there. All right? DD would be located there. So, when you want to know, the question says, which letter in the grid below represents the map area southwest? So now I found out where this map is located. Southwest would be this way. Am I right? And that's why my answer would be C. Okay. Now, Matrix, if you don't understand this yet, go to your teacher and practice these different. Use any town or area that you can find. Right? Where is it? 3319 dB PAL, for instance, right? Work on that one. See, let me draw the grid lines and get the correct positioning where PAL or Queenstown or Stellenbosch or whatever map you're working, where is it located? And once you've worked out that, then you will be able to be in a position to find out which map is located north, south, southeast, or whatever from the map that they have examined. Okay, so please, people, this question was very, some students found this question very, very difficult. Actually, it's easy question if you just know how your latitude and your longitudes and how these grids work. Okay. The calculations. Now, it's going to be impossible for me to do all 6 calculations this afternoon. Remember, one calculation takes about 10 minutes for you to really understand, if not more than 10 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you what calculations are important for the exams. Now, the most important calculations are these that you see here. Distance, there are 6 of them. Area, gradient, magnetic declination, magnetic bearing, and vertical exaggeration. Matrix, see that you are in a position, firstly, that you know the formula of each of these calculations. That is where everything begins. Okay? Sometimes they supply with the formula in the exams. It's not necessary to do so. Okay? Then you've got to know it. See that you're in a position that you know your formulas. And then from there, you can actually go on and do your calculation. Now, please remember, when you do calculations, follow the steps accurately. Firstly, 2 things you must do accurately. You must measure if a measurement is required. Measure accurately. That's the first one. And follow all the steps. You know, if you make a mistake, you can still get marks for the mistake, for the steps that you have done. And you can gain up to 40% of the marks by just following the correct steps. So please do that. So let's have a look at. You must know distance, right? Map distance times scale, divide by 100,000. Look at that. Answer in kilometers. Please look at all the units that I'm showing you here at this moment. All right? You must know these units. Because if you don't answer it in the units, if you don't add the units, your answer is incorrect. So please, Matrix, don't throw away. That's not really a stupid mistake, okay? Don't throw away marks. You need every possible mark. Look at area. Now, some children tell me, okay, I can calculate distance, but I'm struggling with area. I don't believe you. Because what is area? Area is just 2 distances that you've got to calculate, and you times it, and then you get area. So please, this is very easy. Gradient. Remember, gradient. No units. Magnetic declination. Magnetic bearing, that is magnetic declination plus bearing. And of course, your vertical exaggeration, which is the vertical scale and the horizon divided by the horizontal scale. Your answer here will be so many times, X times, so many times the one scale larger than the other one. Okay, but let's have a look at this slide again. Check up on, you'll have to go and check up and practice all these calculations. Okay. Now, if you look at the top 3 that we've got, all the top 3 has to do with distance. This is your ordinary distance one. As I've said, area, what is? Just 2 distances, right? Gradient, again, distance, height over distance. So if you can do distance, you are at least on your way to do 3 calculations. All right? So see that you are in a position to calculate distance, because if you do that, you can do 3 calculations. So these are the calculations that you must know. Now, when we had a look at the question papers, these came up with regard to calculations. Firstly, some candidates continue to struggle with the calculations, and they neglect to show the different steps they have followed. Candidates were credited with each correct step shown. I've mentioned this in my introduction. Do you see how important is it that you must be able to know the formula and to follow the steps? Because if you know the formula, the steps will follow. Okay, so you must do that. Okay, don't struggle with calculations. Every day, go and work out. Today I'm going to do distance. Get a topographic map. In your textbooks, there are enough topographic maps. And say, okay, I am going to calculate the distance from here to here. Do 3, 4 of them. Go to your teacher, say, listen, I calculate these distances. Are they correct? The next day you do gradient, and so forth and so forth. But as I've said, when it comes to calculation, practice makes perfect, right? You will have to take control of that situation. Then the following thing, all calculations and final answers must have included the required units. Can you remember I've mentioned that also? Or no marks were awarded for that step. For instance, meters, right? True north, west of true north, so many times. Okay, see that you use, please, that you use your different units in your answers. Please, people, don't, as I've mentioned this before, don't make silly mistakes, okay? You must actually remember that after I've done a calculation, what unit is very important here. Add that unit. It's 2 marks, people, all right? And please, every mark counts in matric. Don't lose a mark, and that only because you have forgotten to add the unit as well. Okay, please remember that. All right. Now we are going to have a look at map reading. Now, the rest of my discussion will center around map reading. Now, this is the 3rd question in your exam. And as you saw, that the most of the marks you get here in map reading, 25 of them. Now, I've also said in my introduction that to do map reading, you must know your work. You must know the content for map reading. Otherwise, you will never ever know what answer, you will never be able to derive the answers from the maps. You must know your work. In fact, I believe that you must know your work better to answer the 2nd question paper than the 1st question paper, right? Because the answers are hidden there in the map. And if you don't know your work, you're not going to see the map, the answers. Remember, all the answers are there, but you must know your work to get to the answers. Okay, so let's have a look at map reading. Now, the question of question 3 deals with, as I've said, application and interpretation of your content that you've studied for the whole year. Now, basically, people, your question 3 will deal with climatology, geomorphology, and settlement, right? Climatology, geomorphology, and settlement. Most of your marks will come from those sections. So you must know your work. You must know how to use this work, the facts, to get to the answers. Now, what is happening nowadays is that if you look at the question papers, they usually, sometimes, they will also give you statistics of something in that region. Now, in last year, they gave this, for instance, the average monthly precipitation for Queenstown. Remember they did Queenstown's map. Now, having given this puts the examiner in the position to test your statistical skills, but not only that. He can also test your skills if you can use the statistics there and apply that on the map. And that's very, very important. Now, that's some higher order thinking, to use the statistics and to apply it on the map. So let's see. Now, what they did here was ordinary calculations, but what they also did was the following. And this, you must, please, matrics, you must be in a position to do this. You must be able to describe the information in the statistics. All right, very important. Describe the information in the statistics. Tendencies, for instance. What are the tendencies in the rainfall from June to September, for instance? In other words, is it getting more, is it getting less? What's the tendency? Is it the upward tendency? Is it downward tendency? You must be able to describe it. Now, here they've given you statistics. It could have been a graph also, right? So please, people, you must be in a position to do this. Secondly, you must be in a position to do calculations from the statistics or the graph. Look at that one. Calculate the average annual precipitation for Queenstown. All right? So it's a very important thing. Now, after they've asked you, for instance, to calculate the annual precipitation, what does that lead to? Now they can tell you, okay, you've discovered now that it's a low rainfall area. Why? Why is it a low rainfall area? Where do I get that answer? I've got to go to the map. You see now what I'm talking about, Matrix? You must be able to integrate your statistics with a map all the time, okay? When they give you statistics or graph, it will deal with that area. So please, people, you must always through your mind go, yeah, I've got the statistics. What does the statistics do? How does it fit in with this area that they are examining? Okay, come back to that with the next slide. Here we go. Use it to integrate the answers with topographic and an orthophoto map. The answers. Now, if you have a look at this, you will see the total 514, for instance, millimeters rain. And then they could ask you, for instance, the high rainfall area is the low rainfall area. Look at this. They can ask you, is it in the summer, or is rainfall in the summer, or rainfall in the winter? All right? Is it seasonal rain? Now, if your answer is seasonal rain, of course, what are they going to do? They're going to ask you. Now, there's the map. Why? What indications are there that this area receives seasonal rain? You see, you see the thinking pattern matrix from the statistics, from the graphs, back to the map, back to the orthophoto. Okay? You must think about that all the time when you are busy with your Mapwork. Okay, so now they've asked you, right, there you've got it. Your answer was seasonal rainfall. Why? Then, what must I look at? You must look at the many dams that are there, because there are many dams. Then it means that the farmer must dam water for the dry season. Are there any things like irrigation schemes? Now, here we've got an interesting thing. Here we've got the Afrikaans word. I doubt whether you can see it, but here's written besproeiingsskema. Now, where would you find that word? That word would be in your translation schedule. Remember when I talked about page 2? There you'll find the word besproeiingsskema and irrigation scheme. Right? And immediately, there's my answer. Okay, so irrigation scheme. Are there any other indications as well? Many non-perennial rivers that we've got here. Okay, furrows, right? Furrows, which of course, irrigation. I mean, if we had rainfall throughout the year, you didn't need irrigation, right? So that's that. The next one they can ask, for instance, aspect. Is it warmer at A or at B? Now, Matrix, we have huge problems in the first question paper when it comes to aspect. That candidates cannot identify the warmer slope, right? That's very important. Now, if you can't do that in the first question paper, you're going to have huge problems in the second question paper to identify it. Okay? Because here you're working with a map. In the first question paper, you're working with a diagram, which could be a little bit easier. But now when you work with a map, this is a different story. So let's have a look. Here we've got A and B. Which one of the slopes A and B is warmer? And remember, this is all our maps in the southern hemisphere. And what would our answer be? Our answer would be that. Right? What do? I look at the north-facing slope, and then my answer will always be that the north-facing slope is much warmer. In other words, A, which is the north-facing slope, is much warmer than B. Okay? So have a look at this slide again, Matrix. If you did not understand aspect, there's no ways that you could get to this, the answer of this question. Okay? So do you see why I said that for the second question paper, you must even know your content much better, because you've got to apply it to the maps. All right. Now, here we've got an interesting one. Here we've got Caledon. Which of the residential areas, West End, Tyneside, or Vleyview, will experience higher levels of pollution before a cold front moves over Caledon and after a cold front moves over Caledon? Now, if you didn't know mid-latitude cyclones, there's no ways that you could answer this question. Matrix, I'm going to repeat this throughout this broadcast. You see why you must know your content very well for your second question paper. Okay? So, what has this content? Where does this fit in? This has to do with weather changes when a cold front moves over an area. Right. Now, in Western Capes, you should know cold front. Right. Cold front conditions. You know what happens there. So, let us see what happens. The first thing that you know is the temperature drops. Right? The cloud cover will increase. It will start to rain. But the most important thing has to do with wind direction. What is that? The wind direction changes from northwest to southwest. Now, if you didn't know that, you couldn't answer this question. Now, let's have a look at this. Remember, the wind direction changes from northwest to southwest. In other words, that is before the cold front moves over the area. If this is before the cold front moves over, then it means that Vleyview, you see, here's an industrial area. So that's the wind direction. Remember, the wind direction always given from where the wind blows, not in the direction. Okay, so this means Vleyview will experience higher level of pollution. Now, have a look at this again. After the cold front, wind direction changes from northwest to southwest. In other words, that's going to happen. So this means in this case, Tyneside will receive higher levels of pollution. But you see how well you must know your work, right? You must know your work. And as I said, I'm going to repeat this every time because some matrix, many of you don't understand the relationship between your content and your map work. Remember, map work has to do with relationships, okay? And you must find out where does that relationship lie. Then you'll be successful. Let's have a look at the next question. When we have a look at this question, you make a fire at 11 o'clock the evening at X, all right? There's X. And there our fire is burning. In what direction will the smoke blow? All right. Now, when you saw that, when you saw this, when you saw the question, you make a fire at 11 o'clock, 100 hours at X. In what direction would the smoke blow? And then you would see that here's a lot of brown. There's written even Mount Middleton here. This is a mountain here. And then if you knew your work, you should have known that this answer has to do with katabatic or anabatic winds. Am I right? That's the only place where I can get the answer. Katabatic, anabatic winds. But now they've given me a time, 11 o'clock. So, what's happening now? During the night, we've got the katabatic effect. Am I right? In other words, this is the direction in which the wind will blow. The smoke will blow down the slope. And that's very, very important that you must know the smoke blows down the slope or in the southwest, southern direction. So you've got to know katabatic and anabatic winds to answer this question. You must know which one occurs during the day. You must know which one occurs during the night. And matrix, you know, even in the first question paper, we've also got huge problems. We pick up this, that people really don't understand your katabatic and anabatic winds. Okay, now the following question that I would like to have a look at is the following. Which of the following average summer temperatures would be found at X and at Y? Now, X is over there, Y is here. Give a reason for your answer. Now, temperature. You saw the first one, the previous slide, dealt with wind direction. Now, when we talk about temperature here and you see X there, you see lots of green here. Here you see lots of gray here. In other words, immediately, your content, you should know. But here I've got an urban area, am I right? Here's green. That is a rural area. So, the question here deals with one very important thing. Why are urban areas warmer than rural areas? That is the crux of this question. Right. So, let's have a look at what should be our answer. Right. Y should be 22 degrees and X should be 19 degrees. Right. As I've said, the urban areas are warmer than the rural areas. What are the reasons? There we've got it. Y is in urban heat island. Y is in an urban area. X is in a rural area. At Y, what do we get there? Artificial surfaces, pollution traps heat, and so forth. Artificial heating. Again, Matrix, if you've got to know your content. And again, I've got to mention that this is also, when we ask this in the first question paper, you've also got problems with that. Okay? So see that you can deal with these type of questions. And the only way is, what? I must know my work. I must know it. The second question paper, too many matrics haven't got the right attitude for the second question paper. They see it as a walk in the car park. It's not matrix. The second question paper will be very difficult if you don't know your work, if you haven't prepared yourself thoroughly. Okay, I will just have a look at geomorphology, and this is very, very important. In our report that I've mentioned, you saw that we had a problem with stream orders. Okay, it was mentioned. I mentioned in my introduction as well. Please, people, remember your stream orders. Very easy. If you can remember when we did the geomorphology, this is the same slide I'm showing you. When we did the geomorphology broadcast in the first quarter, it was very important that you should have seen that your stream orders work like your fingers. Am I right? If you can remember, go back to the broadcast. You'll see it there, right? My first order streams are there. Am I right? And then I drew a few lines here. 1 and a 1 gives you a 2. Am I right? 1 and a 1, first order, second order stream, right? Second order plus second order gives you a third order stream. Now, when they ask this in the exams, I doubt whether they'll go much higher than a fourth order stream. They've never done that yet. Okay, so you'll get one, something like that, where it will be quite easy to identify the first, second, and third order streams. And this is a very, very good example of such one. Here we've got all our first order streams. Please see that you know that they are there right on top. They are right where the rivers actually start here. When you've got your confluence here, okay, here you have a 1 and 1, there you get your 2, okay, your second order 1, right? And when you get 2 2s, a second order and a second, you'll get a 3. People, this is very easy to work out, okay? And that is why I'm very surprised when I see the exam reports and I see how people struggle with this part of the book. See that you don't struggle with this. Easy marks for you. Okay, a very, very popular question in the exam is your stream patterns. Now, Matrix, you must study stream patterns, whether it's for the first question paper or the second question paper. These patterns are very, very, very important. Okay, now, you should know the dendritic pattern, the trellis pattern, how to identify the rectangular one and the radial one. You must know the names. It's very important that you must know the names of each and every one of these stream patterns, okay? You must know how to identify them, and more importantly, people, you must know what has caused that stream pattern, right? A very good question, for instance, if we look at our dendritic stream pattern that we've got here again, they will ask you, what has caused that stream pattern, or what are the underlying structures? That's actually the words that they use that have caused this, right? Then you must know that the rocks here are uniform rocks. Below, at the bottom, you get your uniform rocks. That's why we've got the dendritic. Uniform means the same type of rocks that we've got there. That is why we've got a dendritic pattern. You must know that. You must know what causes your radial pattern. You must know that I could have a mesa or a conical hill and all the streams flow down the hill. That is why I've got my radial pattern. Okay, so please, people, see that you know all these things. This is easy work, all right? See that you know what to do with this, right? The waterfalls, sometimes they ask you. The first question came up already. Here we've got the Lions River. Is the Lions River graded or ungraded? Give a reason for your answer. Now, firstly, you must know what's an ungraded river, and you must know what's a graded river. Now, here we've got it, and it's very important that you must know that here we've got our temporary basis of erosion, waterfall, and your dam. If you see a waterfall and a dam, then that river is ungraded. Now, if they ask you if a river is ungraded, you must see, are there any temporary basis of erosion? Is there waterfall? right? Is there a dam? Is there a lake? Are there rapids in the water? See if that's in the river. If you see that, then you know that that river cannot be graded. Very important that you've got it. The smooth profile on the other hand, if you see none of these things, then you have a graded river. All right. Now, another popular question that they ask is to draw cross profiles from A to B. Now, we've done this in the first quarter, so I'll just go through this as quick as possible. You must know where's your undercut slope, right? You must know where's your slip-off slope, and you must know that this is what it looks like from A to B. I know that is the direction in which the river flows. So I'll have erosion there, I'll have deposition. See the brown here, you can see the deposition on the side. River is flowing slow. So this means I've got my slip-off slope here, and I've got my undercut slope. Now, if they ask this is the way in which they mark it. They've given 5 marks for this, for instance. Where's the erosion? Where's the undercut slope? Where's the deposition? Where's the slip-off? And if you've got the correct diagram, another mark. 5 marks for this. See that you're in a position to draw your different cross profiles on your river. Meanders and oxbow lakes, right? Remember in your content, you must know this, right? When you come to fluvial landforms, here we've got different meanders that river bends actually, okay? There we've got them, and you must know that what's happening here. This is the direction in which the river flows. Yeah, I've got erosion on this side and that side. And what's going to happen? That this neck is getting narrower and narrower, and eventually, look at this, the stage in which this one is here, this bend. Then look at this one. Can you see the river has cut through here already? And if you get your deposition there of alluvium here, then you'll get a oxbow lake. So it's very important that you must know these stuff for your second question as well. I'm going to conclude with urban settlement. Now, remember that urban settlement is very, very important. It's the only part of human geography that you do in Matric, and you must know this, because remember that the map that you're going to give, in fact, I can't remember that they've ever given a map that has not an urban settlement with a rural settlement. So map is going to look, there's a 100% chance it's going to look like this. You're going to have an urban settlement with a rural settlement around the urban settlement. And very important questions regarding urban settlement are going to be asked in the exams, in your second question paper. So, you've got to know your work, all right? You must know your land use zones, for instance. That's very, very important. You must know your stream patterns, yeah, your street patterns, not stream patterns, street patterns. Remember, we've got stream patterns and street patterns, okay? So, what do we do? The first thing is street patterns. Now, if you've listened to my introduction, you would have heard that people have they couldn't recognize the irregular pattern and your grid pattern. They just couldn't do it. Now, if you look at past question papers, you will see that what they usually do is that they give you a table with a comparison, and they put A here, put B there, and say, what is the type, advantages, disadvantages, right? So see that you know, especially your irregular and your grid patterns. Those are the 2 most important patterns here in South Africa. See that you know that. See that you know where you find that one. The grid pattern that you get on your gentle slopes, on your irregular pattern on the steeper slopes. You must know the advantages and the disadvantages of everything, because that can be asked in your second question paper. Look at the past 2-3 years. You find that. Get your table like that, and they ask it that way. And they mark it in the table. See that you know your street patterns. Okay, now, of course, the zone of decay, which is adjacent to the central business district, that is the Paarl CBD. So the zone of decay will be there, okay? And usually these questions are asked from your orthophoto map, because this is an orthophoto map of Paarl, because you can see it much easier, okay? And the functions, sometimes, remember, they can give you photos also. Sometimes they can give you photos of different buildings and say, listen here, these are the buildings, these are the photos, where we will find them. In the zone of decay. Why? Right? Because they are old buildings. It mixed functions. Look at the renewal there. You see what you must know for all these things. And you can see it all on the orthophoto map if they supply you with the photos. Remember that, don't be surprised. If you find a photo of a building, if you find a photo of a factory or whatever, and they ask you where we will find that. You see what we've got on the slide here? Very important that you must know your different land use zones. Okay, here's the urban-rural fringe, right? You must know the characteristics, the features of what do we find in the urban-rural fringe. Have a look at this. Here we've got Paul's one. There's a cemetery, power station, small holdings. There's a golf course, national road, sport. You must know this stuff, right? Here we've got one where we've got the urban-rural rural-urban fringe here of Worcester. Here we've got the photo. Here we've got the map. And have a look at that. You can actually see the orientation here. Which one? Here we've got the track. There's the track. Right? Here we've got the aerodrome. There's the aerodrome. Right? Here we've got the horse riding club. There's that. So can you see how you must be in a position to orientate your photos with a map that you can get to your answers. Okay. Then remember, this is very important that we've got here. You must know the land use zones of the map. Right? What are the most important land use zones? These are the industries, CBD, residential, the greenbelt, rural-urban fringe, commercial. You must know this. Okay? Have a look at this. Here we've got, for instance, your commercial. Right? This is a mall that we've got there. Industries, this whole area, look at all the black buildings here. Here's the CBD. You must know, why do we find the CBD? Look at all the routes converging here in the CBD. Residential areas. Here we see the different residential areas. Here we see a green belt, for instance, the golf course that we've got there. The rural-urban fringe. There we've got our aerodrome, the horse riding club, everything that we've got here. So it's very important that you must know your land. You must know land use zones matrix for your first question paper as well as in your second question paper, because that's very important. You are going to get, they've got to ask you something of land use zones in either the first or the question paper, second or both even. So important are your land use zones. You've got to know what is the land use zone, where is the land use zone, and why is it there. The factors. Those are the three more important things. What is it? Where is it? Why is it there? For both your first and your second question paper. Now, Matrix, what we actually did here this afternoon is that I hope that you are ready for your grade 12 Mapwork exam. Now, remember your Mapwork exam, Mapwork starts actually at primary school already. And you are going to be examined of all these things from right through grade 7, 8, 9, right through till grade 12. Because all these things you've learned over these years, land use, location, slopes, maps, longitude, skills, direction, all these things you have learned since you were in primary school. And expect a question of any one of these building blocks as we showed you for Mapbook in your grade 12 examination. For you, for the end of the year, or in the next few months, thank you for paying attention. Good with the luck of exams. And remember, I cannot do the second question paper if I don't know the content of the first question paper. Good luck for the exams.